Don't wait up. That was the message glowing on my phone screen. Just 3 words, short and almost casual, but they carried a weight I couldn't immediately explain. I stared at it from my office desk, the blue glow reflecting off my glasses. At first, I brushed it off. My wife, Lauren, had been traveling more for work lately, attending conferences in different states. She always came back exhausted but enthusiastic, telling me about new contacts she'd made, new ideas for the sales team she managed. A late night at some networking event wasn't unusual. Don't wait up could have meant just that. She'd be busy, maybe out with colleagues, and I should go to bed without her. Still, something about the phrasing sat wrong with me. Lauren usually signed her messages with little emojis, or she'd add "love you" at the end. But this time, nothing. Just the 3 words. Cold. Flat. I tried to ignore the unease crawling under my skin, but only minutes later, my phone rang. The name on the screen made my stomach tighten instantly. Richard Lawson, Lauren's direct supervisor. I hesitated for a beat before answering, forcing my voice to sound steady. "Hello, this is Daniel Brooks." Richard's voice came through polite but uneasy. "Daniel, hi. Sorry to bother you this late. I'm calling about Lauren. She called out sick for the annual conference, and we've been concerned. Attendance is mandatory. It's going to affect her quarterly review. Has she been feeling better?" For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My eyes flicked back to the message still glowing on my phone. My mind filled in the blanks of what she must have meant. Conference is going amazing. They added extra workshops. Don't wait up. Sick. The word rattled in my head. I repeated it slowly, as though if I gave it more space it might suddenly make sense. She called in sick? Yes, Richard confirmed. Stomach bug, she said. Since you're listed as her emergency contact, I thought you'd know more. That explained how he had my number, standard HR procedure. Nothing unusual about that. His words settled on me like iron across my chest. On one hand, my wife had told me she was at a thriving, extended workshop. On the other, her boss believed she was home too ill to move. Both couldn't be true. I forced my tone into something resembling calm. She's fine. Thanks for checking in, Richard. I'll make sure she understands the impact. He softened. Of course. Take care, Daniel. When the line went dead, the silence in my office was deafening. 2 realities had just collided, and I had to find out which one was the lie. My pulse spiked as I reached for my laptop. Months earlier, Lauren had lost her phone at a shopping mall. To help her, I'd set up the Find My Phone app. She must have forgotten it was still active. A blue appeared almost instantly. My chest tightened. Riverside Hotel, 40 minutes away. Not the conference center. Not even in the same city. My hands shook slightly as I switched to our shared credit card account. The evidence was there in black and white. Charges from the Riverside earlier that day. Room fee. Dinner for 2. And under the reservation notes. E. Carter. Sloppy. Careless. Almost arrogant. The shock began to fade, replaced by something colder, sharper. That kind of clarity that only comes when a puzzle finally clicks into place. She hadn't even tried to cover her tracks. She thought I wouldn't notice. I stared at her cheerful text again. Once harmless. Now it looked like a mask, paper thin. I whispered into the quiet of the office. She thinks she's smarter than me. For a long time, I just sat there, letting the truth settle into me like ice water. Finally, I grabbed my car keys. Lauren wasn't at any conference. She was at the Riverside Hotel. And the question that cut through everything, leaving my chest tight and my mind racing, was devastatingly simple. If Lauren was at that hotel tonight, then who was she there with? The drive home felt strangely calm, like my body had decided there was no point in wasting energy on rage. The shock had hardened into something colder, steel certainty. Whatever this was, it was already over. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the porch light clicked on automatically, washing the front steps in a tired yellow. Our house looked like a photograph of itself, familiar angles, no warmth. I unlocked the door and walked into the living room Lauren and I had painted together the first spring after we moved in. We'd argued about the shade. She wanted dove gray, I wanted cooler slate, landing on a compromise that never pleased either of us, a metaphor I was only just now beginning to understand. I set my keys down and pulled out my phone. There was one call I had to make before anything else. Evan Parker, my brother-in-law and a divorce attorney who had introduced me to Lauren at a backyard barbecue a lifetime ago. He picked up on the second ring. Daniel? Everything okay? I've got a hypothetical, I said, keeping my voice flat. If someone wanted to file for divorce in this state based on adultery, what would they need? He went quiet, the attorney brain slotting into place. Evidence. Texts, locations, credit card statements, hotel records, photos if possible. Why? How fast could the papers be drafted? Another beat. This isn't hypothetical. No. He exhaled. I can have them drawn up by 7:30. Are you safe? I'm fine. She's at the Riverside Hotel, not the conference. Her boss, Richard Lawson, called asking about her stomach bug. Understood, he said, voice shifting fully into that professional calm. Come by as soon as you're ready. I'll have Jenna make the guest room up. Thanks, Evan. I hung up and took a long look around the room. The bookshelves we built. The rug we bought in Santa Fe on a road trip. The framed photo of us in Charleston, smiling against a wind that had made our eyes water. A house can be packed with proof that a life happened without offering a single reason to stay. I went to the closet and dragged out the suitcases, 3 of them, big ones. Then I started. Clothes first. Lauren sorted by color. I didn't bother. Dresses, coats, heels in their felt bags, scarves she never wore. I folded and stacked until the bed turned into a landscape of fabric. Jewelry next, the acrylic tray she loved, each compartment a little museum. I left her wedding ring on the nightstand where she always dropped it during lotion and podcast nights. The ring wasn't mine to move anymore. That thought landed with a dull thud. I moved room to room with the efficiency of someone conducting inventory. Her laptop and work folders. The Pilates bands she never put away. The skincare bottles she bought in sets of 3, as if repetition could manufacture miracles. The framed family photos of her mom, Evelyn, and sister Maddie. Even the vintage china set from her grandmother that Lauren insisted we display but never used. I didn't smash anything. I stacked, labeled, and carried each piece to the garage like I was moving stock from one warehouse to another. Order, not chaos. In the kitchen, I cleared a stretch of counter and waited for the printer to spit out the packet Evan had emailed over. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Affidavit. Exhibits. I laid a yellow sticky note on top and wrote, in neat block letters. Richard called. Hope you're feeling better from that stomach bug. It wasn't a dagger, more like a tag on an evidence bag. I set her phone charger next to the papers. Then I took my go bag from the hall closet, a habit from years of travel that suddenly felt like foresight, and zipped it closed. Hoodie, jeans, chargers, toothbrush, the bare minimum for a clean exit. Before I left, I walked once through the rooms, not to memorize anything, but to make sure I hadn't missed a thread. I locked the door behind me and didn't look back. Evan's neighborhood was quiet, the kind of tree-lined street where the breeze always seems to be performing for the leaves. When I rang the bell, Jenna opened with a soft, practical smile. She'd pulled on a cardigan over pajamas and had that automatic hospitality some people are born with. Guest room's ready, she said, squeezing my arm once. Evan's in his office. Evan had spread the documents across his desk. He'd already added references to the Find My Location and the Riverside charges. His handwriting, blocky, precise, clustered in the margins. You sure about tonight? He asked, scanning my face the way doctors search for hidden symptoms. I'm past sure. He nodded, slid me the signature tabs, and watched me sign. We'll file first thing. Process server can handle delivery if you want it formal. I considered the sticky note waiting on our counter. The papers on the kitchen counter will do for now. We finished paperwork. I lay down fully clothed, the blanket heavy in a good way. A clock somewhere in the house ticked with the metronome patience of someone willing to outlast anything. It was just after 2 in the morning when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I let it go dark. It buzzed again, then again. On the 3rd call, Jenna eased the door open and whispered, "It's Lauren." She sounds frantic. "Wanting to pick up?" I shook my head. The 4th call rolled to voicemail. Then a text. Another text. Another. I turned the phone face down and stared at the ceiling until the blank white of it finally pulled me under. At 6:30, sunlight scraped through the blinds and the phone was a slab of cold glass beside my hand, heavy with notifications. 50 messages in 5 hours. The first wave was denial. This is a mistake. Richard must have mixed me up with someone else. Please call me. I'm at a workshop. You misunderstood. Then bargaining. Daniel, let's talk. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but it's not what you think. Don't throw away 8 years. Please, I love you. I'll do anything. Just talk to me. Then fury. You're really doing this? Over a misunderstanding? You're pathetic. You'll regret this. Answer me. Stop acting like a child. Then desperation arcing back toward mercy. Coffee. Just once. I'll explain everything. Please. I can't believe you're throwing away 8 years like this. I don't even want to be alive right now. And back to anger again, like a storm stuck on repeat, circling the same sky with nowhere else to go. You think you're clever? I'll take half of everything. The house is marital property. You can't push me out. That was the one I answered. Your signature on the prenup suggests otherwise. I set the phone down and watched a shaft of light crawl across the nightstand. In the office down the hall, a printer hummed, the domestic soundtrack of other people's mornings. Coffee smelled like a plan. Evan knocked lightly and poked his head in. You up? Yep. Good. Because if she's cycling messages like that, she's about to escalate. Panic has a way of trying new outfits. We sat at Evan's dining table. I told him about the texts. He nodded like he'd already seen that movie and could recite the lines. Stay boring, he said. No theatrics. The moment you feed her a paragraph, she'll turn it into a bonfire. As if on cue, the phone lit up with her name again. I looked at Evan. He raised his eyebrows. Your call. I hit accept, set it to speaker, and placed it between us. Her voice came through raw, a splintered version of itself. Daniel, please, can we just talk? You've got it wrong. I wasn't lying. I needed time for myself. A mental health break, I said flat. Yes, she said quickly, too quickly. The pressure. Daniel, you don't understand what my job is like. I needed space to clear my head. At the Riverside Hotel, I said. On our credit card. Silence inhaled the line. I was alone, she said, voice hitching. I didn't want to be at home. I needed to think about our marriage. And the conference? I didn't want to worry you, she snapped, the words tumbling. It was easier to say that than to get into a fight about me needing space. Evan slid a note across the table in that calm attorney hand. Ask about Carter. I didn't look up from the phone. And I assume this has nothing to do with someone named E. Carter, right? Silence again, but different. Dead, like a stage after the lights snap off. It's funny, I said, and I could hear how unfunny my voice sounded. How the Riverside receipt listed his name right alongside yours. Room for two. Dinner for two. Clear as day. That's not true, she said, and the words came out like she was falling downstairs. It's on the statement, Lauren. His initial. His last name. Dinner for two. Room for two. You thought I wouldn't notice? He's just a friend, she said, grasping. We want to talk, that's all. I was alone most of the time. I swear. Alone, I repeated. You checked in together. You dined together. You don't have proof, she burst out, desperation sharpening to a point. Evan tapped the edge of a printed receipt with his pen, then slid it a fraction closer to me. I do, I said quietly. And when this goes to court, the judge will have it too. Her breathing thinned, fast and shallow, like someone realizing the room had one door and it had just clicked locked. You're going to ruin me. No, I said, my voice low and clear. You did this to yourself, Lauren. Every part of it. The line went empty. Then a click. Then silence. Evan reached for his mug. She's unraveling, he said. And people do reckless things when they feel cornered. Keep documenting everything. If she shows up anywhere, call me. Do not engage alone. I nodded and looked at the phone, a tiny sun of possibility and threat. I didn't feel victorious. I felt accurate. I gathered the signed copies into a neat stack. Clean lines. Cold decisions. The only kind that hold when heat tries to warp them. When people panic, they test doors. Push on windows. They look for cracks in walls that aren't supposed to move. Lauren was no different. The morning after our phone call, she tried the first door she could think of, my parents. Later, my mom called to tell me what had happened. She showed up around noon, Mom said. Her voice calm, but carrying the edge she reserved for emergencies. Makeup smeared, tissues in her hand, begging us to intervene. Daniel, she stood in our kitchen crying, saying you had abandoned her. That you misunderstood everything. What did you say? I asked. I asked if she wanted water, Mom replied. She said tea. I told her we reserve tea for family. She drank the water. I had to laugh despite myself. That was my mother. Kind, but clear. She went on for a while. Mom continued. About how cold you were. how you wouldn't hear her out. I listened. 5 minutes, maybe 6. Then I told her she should probably leave. She left in tears. Loud ones. I pictured Lauren storming off the porch, her performance wasted on an audience unwilling to clap. But she wasn't done. That evening, security called from my office lobby. "Mr. Brooks? There's a woman here. Says she's your wife. Insists it's urgent." I sighed. Ex-wife, technically. And no, I don't want to see her. She says it's life or death. Unless she's on fire, it can wait. For 2 hours, she stood outside the glass doors, pacing, sobbing into her phone, shooting glances up at the windows like she could will me to appear. My coworkers murmured, a few lifted their phones, and within minutes her photo, mascara streaked, eyes frantic, hands trembling, was everywhere in the office. Some pitied her, others rolled their eyes. But everyone understood one thing. I wasn't going downstairs. By the time Lauren finally left, she'd left something else behind. A trail of humiliation she couldn't sweep up. That night, new messages arrived, darker this time. "If you don't meet me tomorrow, I'll tell everyone the truth about you. I'll make sure people know what kind of man you really are. Controlling, manipulative, abusive." I forwarded the screenshot to Evan. He didn't even hide his amusement. "Let her post it," he said. "Discovery will be brutal. Every message, every receipt, every lie. If she pushes this, she hands us more evidence." Lauren never posted anything. The bluff fizzled because deep down she knew exposure cut both ways. But watching her spiral from a distance, I knew better than to relax. The mask was slipping, the script failing. The real question was, when tears and lies no longer worked, what would she try next? Sunday morning, my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but answered out of instinct. "Daniel Brooks?" a woman's voice asked. Calm, measured. "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Sophie Carter. I'm Ethan's wife. Well, soon-to-be ex." Her name jolted me upright. "I think we should talk." We met at a quiet coffee shop on Maple Avenue, the kind of place where regulars read papers instead of phones. Sophie was tall, with steady eyes and the kind of composure that comes from someone who has already survived the worst. A folder sat on the table in front of her. Without preamble, she slid it toward me. "I've been suspicious for months. Hired a PI. Here's what he found." Inside, photographs of Lauren and Ethan together. Not just at the riverside, but at other hotels. Dates stretching back half a year. Receipts with both their names. Screenshots of Ethan bragging to a friend about his sales rep girlfriend who thought he would leave his wife for her. I flipped through each page, my stomach hardening with every turn. Sophie stirred her coffee, watching me like a scientist observing an experiment. "He's a junior marketing associate making $45,000 a year," she said, a dry smile touching her lips. "I'm a software engineer." Lauren thought she was trading up, but she forgot to check who actually paid the bills. There was no bitterness in her tone, just dry amusement, like someone narrating a failed investment strategy. I let out a breath. She texted me yesterday demanding half of everything. The house. My accounts. Sophie actually laughed. "Half of what? Ethan's PlayStation? His 2014 Corolla? Oh wait, that's in my name too." We compared notes for nearly an hour. She told me Lauren had painted me as controlling and emotionally cruel, the same script Lauren had tried on me in her texts. I told her Ethan had been posturing as some high-flying executive while still living off Sophie's paycheck. The lies mirrored each other almost perfectly. "Honestly," Sophie said, leaning in, "they deserve each other. But we don't. The more truth we share, the harder it is for them to spin their story." She was right. What had felt like me versus Lauren now had an ally, someone with as much to gain from the truth as I did. As we stood to leave, Sophie added one more thing. "Ethan's been blowing up my phone since Friday, begging me to take him back. He's unraveling. That means Lauren is too." I walked back to my car with Sophie's folder under my arm. Relief mixed with grim satisfaction. Lauren hadn't just betrayed me. She'd gambled everything on Ethan Carter. Hollow, weak, all sugar and no substance. And now that her upgrade was unraveling, I knew desperation would make her dangerous. The only question left was, how far would she go? By Tuesday morning, the fallout had already begun. Richard Lawson called again, but this time his tone was clipped, strictly business. "Daniel, I thought you should know. Lauren's employment has been terminated. She lied about being sick, missed the mandatory conference, and several team members reported seeing her out with Ethan while she was supposedly home ill. HR ruled misconduct. She's not eligible for unemployment. I thanked him, though what I felt wasn't triumph, just a dull certainty. Lauren had lit the match herself, and now the fire had finally reached her career. That night, I was at Evan's house when pounding erupted on the front door. Through the glass, I saw Lauren, her mother Evelyn, and her sister Maddie standing on the lawn, their voices already raised. "You can't just erase her life," Evelyn screamed, her arms flailing like she was conducting an orchestra of outrage. "This is illegal." Lauren sobbed loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. "Daniel stole my house, my money, everything." Evan stepped outside, calm as stone. "The house isn't yours. The prenup is binding. If you don't leave now, this becomes a police matter." Maddie raised her phone, recording like she was filming an expose. "The world's going to see this. Everyone will know how you treated her." But when the police arrived 10 minutes later, the three of them scattered, Evelyn still shouting about injustice as the cruiser lights turned the driveway blue and red. The next morning, my bank called. Someone had tried to access my accounts using my social security number and date of birth. The attempt failed at the security questions. The banker's voice was firm. "We flagged the account and notified authorities. Mr. Brooks, you're protected." I didn't need to ask who it was. Evan's earlier words rang in my ears. People do reckless things when they feel cornered. The spiral didn't stop there. Soon after, Lauren launched a blog, Surviving Narcissistic Abuse, My Journey. Her posts painted me as controlling, manipulative, emotionally cruel. She even set up a subscription for exclusive healing content at $9.99 a month. 17 people subscribed, one of them Evan, purely for evidence. Sophie texted me screenshots with laughing emojis. "Look at this part," she wrote. She says Ethan was her life coach who helped her see her worth. The man can't even pay his car insurance. The absurdity would have been funny if it weren't so exhausting. But the worst came Friday. Lauren, Evelyn, Maddie, and her cousin Chloe Bennett stormed my workplace lobby with homemade signs. "Justice for Lauren, Daniel the abuser." Security intercepted them before they could pass the front desk. Evelyn shouted at the guard, accusing him of upholding toxic masculinity. Maddie live-streamed the whole thing on Facebook. Chloe waved a poster like she was auditioning for a protest she didn't understand. From upstairs, my coworkers filmed through the glass, some shaking their heads, others laughing. By the time the police escorted them out, Lauren's mascara was once again smeared, her voice hoarse from yelling. The spectacle was pathetic, but still, a part of me wondered. If she'd lost her job, her dignity, her reputation, what reckless line would she cross next? The courtroom smelled faintly of varnish and paper. I sat beside Evan, his folder thick with every receipt, message, and report. Across the aisle, Lauren walked in wearing a white pantsuit as if dressing for her own redemption arc. Beside her sat her attorney, a nervous-looking man with a thin briefcase. Behind them, Evelyn and Maddie whispered furiously, while Chloe tapped away on her phone. When the judge entered, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a voice that silenced the room, everyone stood. Evan presented our evidence with steady precision. Hotel receipts showing Lauren and Ethan checking in together, Richard's HR documentation, screenshots of harassing texts, bank fraud reports, even the police calls from her driveway stunt. "Your Honor," Evan said, "the pattern is undeniable. Adultery, deception, harassment, financial misconduct. My client seeks only what is already protected by the prenuptial agreement." Lauren's lawyer tried to counter with vague claims about emotional abandonment, painting me as cold and controlling. The judge raised one eyebrow. "Counselor, your client lied to her employer, was documented in multiple deceptions, attempted financial fraud, and has police reports on record. Where is the abandonment?" The attorney faltered, mumbled something about emotional cruelty. The judge leaned forward. "What I see is a woman who used a shared credit card to fund hotel rooms with another man, lied about her whereabouts, and then attempted to access accounts not her own. Unless I'm missing something, the facts are quite clear." Lauren's face crumpled. Evelyn hissed from the bench, "Appeal. We'll appeal this, baby." But Lauren sat frozen, staring at the table. The gavel came down. Divorce granted. Assets remain with their original owners as per the prenuptial agreement. Mrs. Brooks will pay the petitioner's legal fees in the amount of $8,500. This case is closed. The crack of the gavel sounded like more than a legal ruling. It sounded like an ending. Evelyn shot to her feet, shouting, "This is injustice. We'll fight this." But Lauren whispered, hollow and small, "Mom, stop. It's over." For the first time, she didn't sound furious. She just sounded tired. As Evan and I gathered our papers, Lauren finally looked at me. Her eyes brimmed with a mix of hatred and resignation. "I hope you're happy, Daniel. You got everything you wanted." I met her gaze evenly. "No, Lauren. I wanted a faithful wife. What I got was this." We walked out, leaving her in silence. The weeks after the decree unfolded like fractures in glass, spreading through everyone tied to Lauren's decisions. She no longer wore the sharp suits of a rising sales manager. Instead, she stood behind a mall kiosk arranging glitter phone cases under harsh fluorescent lights. A former coworker texted me a photo. "She doesn't even look like the same woman," the message read. They were right. The confidence had drained from her posture, leaving only a shadow. Ethan Carter didn't fare better. After Sophie finalized her divorce, he crawled back to an old high school girlfriend, a woman already raising 3 kids from different fathers. Ethan called it rebuilding. Rebuilding looked a lot like borrowing gas money from friends and delivering pizzas in his 2014 Corolla. The man Lauren had gambled everything on turned out to be as hollow as he'd always been. Evelyn, my ex-wife's mother, refused to accept defeat. She needed an enemy, and when she couldn't aim her fury at me in court, she turned it on the neighbors instead. One afternoon, she was arrested for keying a car during a petty parking dispute. Her words to the officers, "Nobody respects my family anymore," made the blotter in the local paper. My own life, by contrast, began to steady. A month after the court ruling, my boss called me into his office. "Daniel, the way you handled yourself through all of this, calm, professional, it didn't go unnoticed. We'd like to promote you." For the first time in a long while, I walked out of that building lighter, not carrying the weight of Lauren's shadow. Outside of work, I started seeing Hannah Collins, a teacher with a laugh that cut through heaviness like sunlight through blinds. When I told her pieces of the story, she shook her head in disbelief. She really thought Ethan was an upgrade? That's insane. Her reaction reminded me how surreal it had all been. As for Evan, he framed a copy of the divorce decree beside his law degree. Over dinner one night, he chuckled, "Cleanest case I've ever handled. They practically did my job for me." He wasn't wrong. Every reckless move Lauren and her family made only strengthened the outcome. Looking back, it all fit together like dominoes waiting to fall. Weeks later, I thought I'd heard the last of her. But one night, as I sorted through emails, a text came from an unknown number. "For what it's worth, I did love you once." I stared at it for a moment. I didn't feel sadness, not even anger, just emptiness, already filled by new beginnings. I typed a single word, "Cool," then blocked the number. That was the last I ever heard from her. Then, one morning, an envelope arrived. The return address, Riverside Hotel, the very place where everything had unraveled. Inside was a note thanking me for valued loyalty, along with a certificate for a free weekend stay, courtesy of all the points Lauren had racked up on my card. I laughed out loud, showed it to Hannah. "So after all that, you end up with the prize," she said. "Guess so," I replied. "We used it." The irony was too perfect to ignore. Walking into that lobby with Hannah by my side, I felt no bitterness, only a strange satisfaction that the place, which once symbolized betrayal, was now just another backdrop for something new. Looking back, the lesson wasn't complicated. Lauren showed me who she really was: reckless, deceitful, selfish. I had wasted years hoping she was someone else. But when someone reveals their nature, you don't argue with it. You believe them. Then you move on. So that's what I did. Thank you for listening to my story. Don't forget to subscribe for more.